I was in the Army for 6 years, and I sustained a bunch of injuries. The type of pain that I had was so severe that they just kept giving me these heavy drugs, so I ended up in like a fog, not able to function. I started taking the kratom as a tea, and I started to feel a little better, got rid of the pain. My mind was definitely clear. I want us to talk to our legislators so they can promote policies that promote pure and safe kratom.
Go to protectkratom.org to tell your elected official to protect kratom.
And we're live. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Canna-Heads ND episode, what did I say what episode it was? It's an episode.
Yeah, we're here. Hi, guys.
Yeah. It's an episode. This is your once-a-week podcast for the latest in cannabis, local and national news, every Sunday at around 7:30 p.m. Usually we go for about an hour to an hour and a half. This time we're just mostly talking about voting, some voting, and then obviously that's a topic, and Section 230. But my name is Phil.
I'm Anthony.
And yeah, welcome back to the show, everybody. Tuesday there will be, and it's also in the channel. Sorry, I can't talk today. It'll be in the channel where we're going to be doing election coverage. It's kind of up to when each state reports. I'm kind of still working on that because some states, basically all the information is going to be coming from the Secretary of State's from each state's website. So it's kind of up to them when they start actually reporting to those links. And that's the only way I've noticed to be able to actually get information. I'm not sure how like news media is able to get information live like that. So it'll probably be a little bit delayed, but it will only be covering cannabis. And when it comes to that, that's going to be pretty much the only focus on it. There will be Measure 2 in North Dakota coverage as well. And like if there's an update for president, like that's crazy. Like if Florida goes one way or another, like if it's a swing state, we'll possibly cover it, but it's not like guaranteed. So if you're just looking for just cannabis coverage, definitely come here. If you're looking for like getting the presidential coverage, you definitely will get some information, but not all of it. I think a lot of people are kind of hoping for that, just because like this election is just so
It's a fucking
nearsighted.
dumpster fire. Let's be real here. It's a dumpster fire.
Yeah, it's completely nearsighted, and it's a little bit worrying because it's only basically what are you going to do about COVID-19? And the last I checked, COVID-19 is not planned to last for 4 years. So once COVID-19 is over, don't really know how they're going or what problems really matter to them the most. Obviously, there's the party coverage, like, you know, the party swings one way on this issue and that issue. But some candidates kind of veer outside of like the official view of that party. So it's kind of interesting in that regard, but it's also like a complete dumpster fire in the fact of like, yeah, it's 2016 all over again.
Except the world's on fucking fire.
Yeah. and not only is it on fire, it's probably planning to become more on fire, literally, like in California and all these other countries. Like, fire season might be over now, but it's going to happen again, and it's literally going to be on fire. But yeah, so that's that. I think I have it set to 5:30. Let me see what I have it set to. Actually, I can just pull it up right now. I have it set to November 3rd, obviously 5 p.m. So the way that I'm planning on doing it is we're going to cover basically what we're going to cover now, as far as which states, what it is, how it is, everything like that. And then once the information starts rolling in, then we'll go state for state for state. That's not what I wanted. There's a glitch in YouTube Studio, apparently. If you pull up a second event, you can stream as that second event, even though you're already streaming as one event. Whatever. But yeah, if you like newsy type shows and stuff like that, we do have that podcast, and also it being live on the radio show, KRFF, Radio Free Fargo, 95.9 on Thursdays from 4 to 5 p.m. with Greg Wilson. And we also upload that onto YouTube the next day and on podcasting platforms about an hour to 2 hours later. Any podcasting platform. So Apple Podcasts seems to be the most popular. Spotify is the second most popular. We have some people on like caster.io, which I don't know what that is, but cool. Yeah, there's a lot of different platforms. Basically, just type in Canna-Talk ND with Wilson on any podcasting platform, or just start typing in Canna-Talk ND, and you'll get there. Also, it's in the description of like every single video. Like literally every single link. So just click the one that you like, and it'll take you right there. Yeah, and if you're not subscribed, subscribe. Or go to cannatalknd.com, which will take you to the website. This episode will actually be going on podcasting platforms as well. So I finally got that through. So yeah, Apple Podcasts might take a week, but everything else will be up. And it'll be a completely different one. It'll just be Canna-Talk, or not Canna-Talk, Canna-Heads, and it'll be like North Dakota Canna-Heads is the actual working title, but it'll probably be that. So, yay, we have our own podcasting show. Congratulations, we're a podcast now. We already were, but we have one officially now. But yeah, so and if you want to listen live, if you're not in the Fargo-Moorhead area, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson will be on radiofreefargo.org. So yeah, let's get into everything. So basically, I kind of wanted to cover every single state that has a measure on the ballot regarding cannabis and what each does. So right now there is one, two, three, four, five. Only 5 states have it on the ballot, and in one way or another. So it's either going to be medicinal or recreational. So Arizona, for instance, it's a 21 or older. It is a statutory one, I believe. Yeah, it's a statutory one. 21 or older, 6 plants or less. So there's actually a self-grow in it, as long as it's in a lockable container away from public view. So, I mean, in your house. 16% tax, which would be divided between community college districts, municipal police, sheriff, fire departments, fire districts, the highway revenue fund, so fixing highways, and a new justice reinvestment fund. It also has the ability that anyone convicted of certain marijuana convictions or crimes related to possession, consumption, cultivation, and transportation. So cultivation being one of them, which is kind of rare to see in a state, would also have the expungement, and that would start on July 12th, 2021. So the ability to actually expunge criminal records as well. It's a pretty well-rounded one. It seems that this one, I could have sworn I had polling info, but this one seems to be kind of 50-50. Like, we're not 100% sure if this is actually something that passes. Yeah, so back in 2016, it was defeated with 53.1%, so that's why it's still 50-50. But I could have sworn I had some polling data before, but yeah. So hopefully Arizona gets through. Again, we'll be covering it on Tuesday. Now, Mississippi actually has 2, but I wouldn't call them 2. So there is Initiative 65 and then Alternative 65A. So 65 would allow medicinal, it's a medicinal measure, it would allow medicinal for anyone with 20 different qualifying conditions. The qualifying conditions would be any of these, so most of the common ones, so cancer, epilepsy, Parkinson's disease, Huntington's disease, I can't talk, muscular dystrophy, scoliosis, whatever that is, I don't know how to say it, cachexia, post-traumatic stress disorder, which is actually, I mean, it's a common one, but it's also kind of where that a lot of people have been latching onto that. Positive status for HIV, immunocompromised or immune deficiency syndromes, pain, which is kind of the most common one, glaucoma, basically the common ones. But it would allow people to possess up to 2.5 ounces at one time, and the taxes would be created by the current state sales tax, which is 7%. Now, that went through, and then the legislative branch was like, hey, we have a better form for you. It would restrict smokable cannabis to terminally ill patients, require pharmaceutical grade products, would have a treatment oversight or you would have to have a treatment oversight by a physician, which obviously it's medicinal, nurses and pharmacists, and they would leave tax rates, possession limits, and certain other details to be set by the legislature, so they can just kind of do whatever the fuck they want. I don't know about you, but the first one seems to be the most fleshed out, and the second one seems a little bit fishy. It's the difference between the 20 recognized the qualifying conditions and terminally ill, which, I mean, one of the qualifying conditions I think is a terminally ill physician believes the benefits would outweigh maybe I wasn't terminally ill. Either way, yeah, it seems a little bit more fleshed out, that the actual measure is more fleshed out than the legislative form of it. So that is that one. Then there's Montana, which also has two, both citizen-led. The first one is a constitutional one to allow the legislator or a citizen initiative to maintain a minimum legal age of possession, use, and purchase of marijuana, similar to the regulation of alcohol in the state. And that's based on their constitution. So it would basically be like the same kind of control as alcohol is in the state. So that basically sets the framework for it. And then the I-190 would be the possession use for adults over 21, imposing a 20% tax on marijuana sales, requiring the Department of Revenue to develop a rule to regulate marijuana businesses, and allowing the resentencing and expungement of crimes from marijuana. So it's kind of a two-stepper, but it's kind of also at the same time, if one fails, there's at least another one that could possibly pass. It seems the constitutional one is a little bit less fleshed out, but that also has to do with the fact that it's a constitutional amendment, and I'm pretty sure people who have, seen ND Freedom of Cannabis Act, for instance, the reason why is because it doesn't really, like, the tax rate and everything like that doesn't really belong in the Constitution. So, yeah. Are you muted? You're muted. I think you're, yeah. Huh? Oh, I hear it a little bit. Up the volume a little bit, yeah. What's that? No, that's on... Yeah. I can also boost you on my end too if you want, if something just randomly went out. Nope. I'm gonna do this without it randomly coming back and biting me in the ass. Filters, okay. I'll throw your gain. Say something? Nope, you're muted still.
Testicle.
Yeah, you're really quiet. Still super quiet. And it's definitely on your side because it's like 100% on my end. Oh well, while you figure that out, yeah, so constitutional amendments are kind of just the framework, and then legislative or the statutory measures are kind of what takes it from there. So you kind of have the main setting in a constitutional petition, and then you have the actual law that actually sets up everything in a statutory measure. So that's kind of their idea, but at the same time it kind of works hand in hand, where if one fails, it at least allows like a safety net where maybe the constitutional would fail because it's not so fleshed out. Not many people realize that that's kind of the reasoning behind it, that the statutory one would pass. And that's the reason why you also see with the constitutional, it's saying, the regulation similar to alcohol in the state, and would maintain a minimum age, and it's not really fleshed out that it's 21. but in the statutory one, you also see 21. So that's the reason why they kind of overlap there. Better? Really quiet, but I might be able to work with it. Oh, okay. You got a little bit. You got the tappy. Try it. Oh. Here.
Oh, my video's cleaning up. You starting to hear me a little better?
What?
Said you starting to hear me a little better?
Not so much. Did you change your, Oh shit, that's the ear trumpet. If you go into, like, sound settings on Windows and go to the input, you should be able to hit, manage sound devices? No, that's the wrong one. I hate how Windows does this. App volume and, nope, device preferences? Nope, that's app volume. Sound control panel. Basically, you want to end up at the sound control panel and then go to recording and then your headset and then go into levels and just crank that. I'm guessing that's what it is. I can barely hear you. Tech support with Phil today. I think actually you can go sound.
I'm gonna leave real quick.
Okay. I felt you. I heard you a little bit better when you cupped it. All right, call me back. All right, bye. So, yeah, tech support with Phil. But yeah, so I'm kind of hoping with Montana, what they're showing is it's pretty good chance of it actually passing in Montana. Again, I could have sworn I pulled like polling data. But you got basically a really, really strong, both campaigns are pretty strong, the yes and no's. So it's citizen versus legislation, but you got also the governor, or the lieutenant governor, and the current candidate for governor, state senator with them, former Montana state senator as well. The MPP, obviously, new approach, which I think is in just Montana only, if I remember. Nope, based in Washington, D.C., so new approach. So yeah, you got a lot of stances for, but also on the same hand, you also have a lot of stances against. Representative and candidate for governor, against Contractors Association, because I'm guessing they probably use the same argument of like people are going to get hurt at work type of deal, and the State Chamber of Commerce, which is weird because you'd think that it would also, you know, affect the
How about now?
Yeah, there we go. Say something
Okay.
again. Okay.
Testing.
I just gotta make sure
Okay.
that you're.
It went quiet all of a sudden when I went to the properties of it. The level was taking itself down to 38, and it wouldn't let me. Like I'd move it up and it just snapped back.
I just gotta make you smaller now.
Okay.
There we go.
Wow, crazy, dude.
Windows does whatever Windows wants to do.
Well, and I had to uncheck where you, like, it's allowed to take exclusive control. Or
Oh, yeah.
whatever, like apps can do it. Stupid.
Yeah. Yep, but yeah, hopefully that one passes through. New Jersey, Jersey. New Jersey
Jersey.
also. Yeah, Jersey. This one is a state constitutional amendment that would do recreational. It would be 21 or older. It would also legalize cultivation, processing, and sale of retail marijuana. The constitutional amendment would take effect January 1st, and would be the first state in the Mid-Atlantic to actually legalize fully. And it calls for a 5-member cannabis regulatory commission, which will be first established, oversee the medical marijuana program, or is first established to have made the medical marijuana program, and they would be also responsible for recreational. They're the ones that's basically the same rules and regulations that would be set for medical as it is currently. It would also allow a 6.625% tax to recreational marijuana, but it would also prohibit the state sales tax from being added on, like more state sales tax being added, and it would allow local governments to enact a second 2% sales tax, but not the state. So like certain cities would be able to actually add a 2% tax, which I'm going to take a very wild guess and say that almost every single city is going to do that. It would also, it doesn't really have like limits for possession limits or home grow rules or anything like that. That's basically put on the Cannabis Regulatory Commission that's there, and also any laws or regulations that pass through legislature. The weird thing about this one is it's actually not a citizen-led one, it's actually a legislative ballot measure. So this one is kind of up in the air very much. It had a 72 to 79 support on Democrat side and 36 to 41 oppose on the Republican side. So it's a, I don't know, New Jersey is kind of one of those states where it's kind of based on the actual fact of the measure rather than the actual color of the issue. And also, cannabis is a bipartisan issue and not Democrat or Republican. There's plenty of Republicans that are for it. I mean, there's some right here, and there's a lot of Republicans also for it as well. So, there's that one. And then South Dakota also has two as well. So South Dakota has Amendment A, which would legalize the recreational use of marijuana for individuals 21 or older. They would be allowed to possess or distribute up to 1 ounce, and would require the state legislature to pass laws regarding the program for medical marijuana and the sale of hemp by April 1st of 2022, because South Dakota is a little bit behind when it comes to the Farm Bill, just a little bit. They also apparently just, arrest people driving through their state with hemp.
Why you gotta stop all those goddamn hippies trying to smoke rope or whatever?
And actually, it's surprising. So South Dakota did that, and then another state, we're going to get into it here later, did one further and said, you know what, we're going to do the opposite of South Dakota, and we're actually going to help those people. But yeah, South Dakota is just a little bit behind. But the people who live in a jurisdiction with no retail stores... Oh, okay, there we go. So individuals who live in jurisdictions with no licensed retail stores would also be able to grow up to 3 plants in their own private residence in a locked space, though not more than 6 plants can be kept in one residence. So they're also tackling the whole multi-family home situations, which is a lot of what a lot of people have like against home grow is like, well, okay, no person can have 3, but then what if like a family of 14 or whatever? I don't know if there's a family of 14, but a big family.
I fucking hope not.
Each person grows their own, so then you end up with an entire farm in your backyard. First of all, locked inside your house, locked space. But yeah, it tackles both. 3 plants per person, but 6 max, so 2 people can grow at a time, which is more than enough for personal possession. It also imposes a very steep 15% tax, and the revenue would be used to cover costs associated with implementing the amendment. For 50% of it, the other 50 would go to fund state public schools, and 50% would also be deposited into their general fund, what North Dakota likes to call the legacy fund. Yeah, and a local government can also ban cultivators or testing facilities, wholesalers, retail stores from operating in their limits, But again, when there's no licensed retail stores, they can't prohibit the transportation of marijuana on public roads in their jurisdiction. So it kind of is a catch-22 because no licensed retail stores, you can grow 3, but then the state or the city can say no. But that's kind of probably what somebody had to give up to actually be able to get people to say yes to it. But it seems to be the most, like, every issue, every checkbox checked type of measure on that one. And then there's measure 26, which is this measure would enable medical in South Dakota for debilitating medical conditions and certified by a physician. They would be able to possess a maximum of 3 ounces. Again, the recreational is 1 ounce, so medicinal would be able to be also covered if both pass. So it would be, you can have 1 recreational, but if you need more, then you go get a doctor. And it also limits the amount of cannabis products a person may possess. That would be set by the Department of Health. Patients would also be able to be registered to cultivate at home, and they could grow 3 plants at minimum or another amount as prescribed by a physician. So it's kind of a little bit open-ended there, but at the same time, yeah, so it would basically allow for a second catch, a second net, in case the recreational fails. There would be the medicinal. So those are the states. Those are all 5 states. Yeah, it's 5. So another interesting thing is just basically seeing how much money has been contributed for and against, and you can see that the amount for in almost all cases is more money than the ones against. So Arizona, for instance, they got 5.5 mil with only 833 against in the case of contributions. Mississippi was 4.7 mil with no money against, but I think Mississippi was the one that was legislative line. Oh no, Mississippi was the one that they said, well, you know what, we're not even gonna fight you, we're just gonna make our own bullshit. So yeah, you can almost see in almost every single circumstance, actually every single circumstance, that there's more money going into it for passing than against it, which says something when it comes to people kind of caring about the issue enough that they care for it rather than against it. So yeah, it's kind of also up in the air when it comes to these contributions, like if it's ad dollars being spent or if it's actually like a actual group of people going against that actually are going to do multiple things like ad dollars, flyers, and all that shit. So yeah, you can see that if it's like ad spend, it's probably going to be this amount of money for just rolling ads. Whereas like if you're printing out a shitload of flyers and stuff and mailing them, that's where you would spend that amount of money. So it's kind of interesting to see the amount of money going through. This is by no means how much money ever goes into any of these measures as well. Like, I don't know how much money, well, we can actually see. By the way, if you ever want to see how much money a group or a campaign has ever gotten, North Dakota has that very, very wide open. You just go North Dakota Secretary of State, and you go into their finance section, and you can search up anybody for like since 2010 or something in their database. But this is a lot of money for these states. North Dakota, in North Dakota dollars is what I'd say. This is quite a lot of money for North Dakota dollars. But yeah, so Montana, on top of that, in my awesome segue here, Montana launched the online hemp marketplace. The state of Montana launched their own website that would allow for the sale and for the purchase of hemp from farmer to pretty much processor and every part in between. They call it the hemp marketplace. It looks a lot something like this. It is exactly something like this, and would allow people and farmers to buy or connect with seeds, fiber, and CBD, and all the derivatives that can happen with hemp. So Delta 8, for instance, it would allow people to be able to like connect with people. Posting on it is free. I don't think there was a cost for the transaction either. But it also provides like a category system. It pretty much is the most in-depth system when it comes to the buying and selling of hemp in the state. And hopefully other states kind of start doing something like this. I'd say this is probably the most... I'm surprised that the website works. Is surprising to me. Like, when it comes to a state making their own little platform, I'm more shocked that it actually loads in the first place. But, yeah. What were you going to say?
No, I wasn't.
Oh.
My wife was talking.
Oh. So this one is your thing, because I just realized you put this up there.
Oh, give me a sec. I was looking at stuff. I'm constantly looking at stuffs and things for reasons. This is actually pretty interesting, and it's more of just a kind of a pat on the back for Canada. But the Canadian Police Chiefs, it's their association, the Canada Association of Chiefs of Police. Shoot me. Police.
I can't
The
talk
Canadian
myself today either.
Association of Chiefs of Police calls on federal lawmakers to decriminalize low-level possession of all drugs for personal use. That is a huge step.
Right.
I mean, you can have groups like ours going on about that shit forever, but when you have the chiefs of police going
Right.
and saying this isn't making sense or it's more harmful.
Yeah.
The CACP president, Chief... What?
Oh, no, sorry. I just said it right.
No, my shit has been hinky all day. So, pause that. Okay. So, the CACP President Chief Constable Adam Palmer told the CBC that the current drug possession laws have proven to be ineffective and do not save lives. This is shit we've known forever.
Right.
But again, just it's huge. The Chief Constable Adam Palmer stated that the CACP recognizes that substance use and addiction is a public health issue. Being addicted to a controlled substance is not a crime and should not be treated as such. We recommend that Canada's enforcement-based approach for possession be replaced with a healthcare approach that diverts people from the criminal justice system.
That's about the best answer you can get for that.
Yeah, like how somebody word it better, please.
Right.
And then finally, the CACP paper also supports providing a secure and predictable supply of pharmaceutical-grade opioids for people who use drugs, as most overdoses in the country are tied to illegally obtained fentanyl.
Yeah, I remember reading I think there was a movie about like an opiate epidemic, specifically in Canada, and it basically was like interviews with people who were addicted. It was by Vice, but they would end up like just saying things like, yeah, you know, I had a buddy literally last week, he just died from fentanyl. And there's people who literally, they don't overdose from fentanyl because they know that they're purchasing fentanyl, and they end up being addicted to opioids in the sense of just only fentanyl. So like nothing else works type of deal. Which also has a lot of issues when it comes to ever having any kind of medical like procedure, because your opiate tolerance is so high that if you ever have to go in for surgery, that fentanyl is what they give you when it comes with surgery, as well as other drugs, but like that you need more fentanyl. So they also, on top of being addicted, if they ever need surgery, they end up actually having to admit to their doctor that they're addicted to fentanyl, which also then causes them to not get opioids when they're out of the hospital, so they end up having to go right back into it. And it's just basically a revolving door when it comes to that. That like it pretty much ruins people's lives, and that's specifically in Canada. Which is, yeah. I mean, the support for allowing pharmaceutical grade opioids for people who use drugs is probably not something that's ever going to happen. But at the same time, it would also, there was, they pointed out in here, this is just one of the things I saw. That's the reason why I stopped it from scrolling. Points out that between January 2016 and December 2019, more than 15,000 Canadians died as a result of opioid-related overdose, and between January and December of last year, that number jumped up to 3,823 deaths occurred, of which 94% were accidental. So like almost nobody's trying to overdose on opioids, but yeah, that's a pretty high number when it comes to the amount of deaths from, and there's, I think Canada has like Narcan, like you can get Narcan over the counter, and most, I don't know what they call.
I will Google it.
Most of their state things. What is a state in Canada called? Providence?
Yes.
So most of the provinces, I think, have a Narcan law.
Yeah. States in Canada are called provinces, right? Provinces.
Provinces, yeah.
Shout out to the wife lady being smarter than both of us.
I work at a Canadian company, and I don't know these things. But yeah, so I mean, it's good that like the police chiefs and that people in law enforcement are realizing that like throwing somebody addicted to drugs into jail is not going to make them stop using drugs. There's no way that ever makes sense, in no sense and form, because when it comes to addiction is almost every single time it is not a what's it called, a ethical problem, it's a mental problem, mental illness, or not a ethical illness. So nobody is like waking up one morning and being like, I want to get addicted to fentanyl today. Like, nobody does that. And they usually feel pretty shitty from relapses, and throwing them in jail on top of that does not fix that at all, one single bit. And if anything, it also makes them more angry towards the law enforcement community, courts, and everybody that they have to jump through every single time of the way through. So yeah, the fact of providing treatment to them is a much better form of it. But
now here's my thing, and this is where like I'm devil's advocate. Why don't we treat drunks with the same stigma? Why don't we do that? That pisses me off to no extent, because my best friend in the world, I lost him to an Oxycontin overdose.
yeah.
You know, and it's like, why is it that I see people around town where they're absolute total drunks, and in our society it's, oh, he's just like that.
Right, yeah. And on top of that, we actually treat them better, at least in some states, like Minnesota, for instance. If you go to prison, first of all, your first DUI, even if it's like a super dangerous type of situation, is almost never prison. And in some cases, your first felony with drugs is prison. But if you get like a DUI or any kind of alcohol-related crime, it's mandatory treatment while you're in prison, and you are actually priority level on that situation. So you almost always go through treatment when you are in prison. Sometimes if your sentence is shorter than the amount of time in the waiting line is, yeah, you don't get that, but you still have to do it after. But when it comes to people in there with like a drug rehab type of like stipulation in their sentencing, the people who have drug stipulations almost never get into treatment, whereas the people with alcohol stipulations almost always get into treatment.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the treatment in prison isn't like it's as bad as it sounds, but it's also a lot better of a situation than having to go do your entire prison sentence, then get out, then have to do your rehab on top of that. You just basically relock yourself up, which sucks. But like when it comes to like life, like what your life is like going through the treatment, it depends on which treatment program, but in certain states, and if it's just a jail form of it, you would basically be able to eat as much as you want, refills as much as you want. It's basically like you're just staying at a hotel almost always. It's insanely well funded, and it's crazy. But yeah, we almost always treat them better than people with drug addictions. It's insane.
I would go as far to say as it's not almost, like, alcohol is treated as just a part of our society when it is just like I've never heard of cannabis being a legitimate gateway drug, but I can guarantee you every time that I tried something, always drinking. Every time.
Yeah.
It lowers your inhibition.
Yeah, that's exactly it. There's people, even with cigarette smoking, there's people who are like, I only smoke when I'm drunk.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
but yet those drunks are not treated with stigma.
Yeah. And on top of that, not only is it that, it's also mental health just in general is like, oh, he's a schizo or like, whatever. They don't see that as like as big of a problem with the amount of attention sought to than alcohol. Like alcohol, they're like, oh my god, he's a drunk, or that's just how he is. But like, if they get in trouble, oh my god, we need to help him. But like, guy overdoses, you basically get a walk in from a social services person, be like, do you need help? You don't need help? Okay, whatever. Like, they don't really do anything. But like, DUIs, they treat like all the attention in the world towards. But yeah,
I don't know, and again, like, I know it sounds salty, like it shouldn't be, well, one's less than the other or whatever. Like that's the absurdity to me, is the fact that we treat something like cannabis as life ruining and completely fucked. But then you have people where they're on third, fourth, fifth DUI and whatever, and then they're going around saying, oh, well, I guess now he's going to have to go to jail, or I can't believe it took him this long or whatever. And it's like, we toss people in fucking cells over a plant that has never directly harmed a human being before.
Yeah.
But yet we let people walk around freely in society after we encourage the behavior, in terms of like how our society is like, let's go to the bar, let's do this every time there's a sporting event, let's drink.
Right.
We encourage that behavior.
New Year's.
Yeah, especially.
It's literally just nobody ever, like, I mean, at least for me, I almost never celebrate New Year's sober, but I'm saying like New Year's just in general is not really as much of a holiday for the day. It's just more of New Year's weekend.
Yeah. But that's what I mean though, is like there's this plant that is proven to be beneficial medically or spiritually, physically, whatever, however you want to ingest it. But yet you have alcohol where it's like, it's so heavily ingrained in our society, and it has never been good. Never.
Yeah.
It has always had a negative impact on human beings. And yet we demonize and criminalize people suffering. We profit off of the suffrage of other people, but then we turn around and we cram entire fucking stores with bottles of shit that's basically poison and say, here you go, drink responsibly.
And another thing is alcohol has like no actual like medicinal I don't know, maybe it has some medicinal value, but none that is like actually efficient medicinal
Topically,
value.
no. Or like topically, yes. It's very efficient.
Oh yeah,
Hand sanitizers and shit or disinfectants.
but
But
like
ingesting, no. You're ingesting
yeah.
a fucking what's the word for it? Like paint
Uh,
thinner and shit like that.
this, no, alcohol. What is it called? Alcohol is a Wikipedia. Tell me what alcohol is a.
Basically like you get stickers off and shit,
Yeah.
There's a word I'm looking for.
Oh, I don't know that word. That's for sure. But I know what you're talking about. Like, it's not a paint thinner, but it's there's. Yeah, I don't know. It's like what goof off is,
Yeah, like
or Gugon, or what it's called. But yeah, like
you're ingesting
cannabis.
a fucking poison and something. Yeah.
But yeah, like whereas cannabis, on the other hand, it actually has efficient medicinal value, whereas alcohol has, you can say anxiety, you can say sleep. But when it comes to those medicines, there is much more efficient forms of it. There is way more efficient forms of it. There's even literally the actual chemical that causes the anxiety loss and the sleep, basically giving you more sleep. There's literally a pill that they've already made, and it's just basically the actual molecule in alcohol that it actually affects. Gabapentin. That's a painkiller, nerve killer, or nerve painkiller, a sleep medicine, and anxiety medicine in some cases. It's got so many different uses, and it's way more efficient and actually safer in some cases. In most cases. Like, a massive quantity of gabapentin isn't going to kill you. You're just going to have a very bad time. Whereas a massive quantity of alcohol, on the other hand, could actually kill you. In the sense of actual respiratory depression, in the sense of, what? You found
Solvent.
it? Solvent. Yeah, okay.
You were ingesting a solvent.
Yeah.
What is, like... take alcohol, pour it on a fucking steak, let it sit for a second, okay? I'm serious. Take rubbing alcohol and dump it on, a cheap steak, like a cheap cut of meat, and dump it on there and let it sit and see what it does to the tissue. That's essentially what you're doing to your body, but on a lower scale.
Yeah. Yeah, it basically burns your esophagus when it goes down. That basically, that burn that you get when you take a shot, that's just basically burning your esophagus.
And like solvents do, they're seeping. It's like if you ever dropped alcohol on a table, instead of it just going out or whatever, it seeps in.
Yeah.
It's doing that into your tissue.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, I don't know. I wish that it was more accepted. I'm not for the belief of we should make alcohol illegal and we should legalize cannabis. Like, that's a complete far. But we should treat it the same.
Yeah.
If
you can't
anything,
have one and shit on the other, especially when the other is of lesser danger.
The ethyl alcohol, that's the one that you drink, or ethyl, I don't know. It starts with an E.
Ethyl alcohol.
Yeah, ethyl. That is an inhibitant, or an inhibitor? No, it basically inhibits your light. I don't know. What's the technical term? Imbibe? I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to explain. Basically, it fucks you up. Intoxicant, that's the word. And with...
You had me fucked up there for a second.
Inhibitant. That's what I thought. I don't know. Yeah. And cannabis, to some people, they use it as intoxicant. One safer than the other.
Yeah, by far.
The issue of, hey, maybe we should figure out why somebody wants to get themselves intoxicated, but there's plenty of different excuses, in my opinion, but different reasons for people wanting to get intoxicated, whether it's partying or celebrating or whatever, or even some people do it for sleep. please don't drink yourself to sleep. That's not a good idea. But things like that, like, they're used in the same sense in some cases. We should at least keep it on the same level and not throw it into Schedule 1 substance, treat it just as bad as heroin, essentially. Yeah, there's a disconnect there, and that also comes back from the war on drugs and all that, but yeah. Section 230.
Oh shit, here we go.
Okay, this is a little bit of a rant of mine, but at the same time, it's something that I think a lot of people don't seem to understand a lot about. So let's just jump into why this became forefront in the news. It's been brought to the forefront of the news pretty much like every month, at least once a month. But about a month ago to a few weeks ago, there was a allegation. I'm going to keep that very, very proudly burned into everyone's minds. This is an allegation because there's a lot of really weird situations in that situation, or that allegation, of a repair shop in Delaware that magically, and we're not sure why or how, the story is a little bit changed every single time it's been told, of the contents of Hunter Biden's laptop. In that laptop, apparently there was a hard drive, and they made a copy of it, and there was screenshots of and emails of drug use, nudes, emails connecting Hunter Biden and Joe Biden together with Ukraine and Burisma, and the New York Post wrote 2 articles. One was the actual expose of the hard drive, and the second one was more evidence plus also talking shit about what happened to their first article. The first article was basically taken down from Twitter and Facebook under the guise of hacked materials, and this was said during a Senate hearing, or judicial Senate hearing. I don't know. Long story short, it was in a hearing where Jack Dorsey said that they suppressed it. They locked accounts on the basis of hacked materials, because that's a lot of information and there's a lot of stuff there. And right off the bat, with such serious allegations, they're erring on the side of caution, that they disabled basically that link from being posted. It affected McEnany, I forgot what her first name is, the press secretary. Yeah, Kayleigh McEnany. They disabled the press secretary's Twitter. They disabled the New York Post's Twitter. They disabled anybody sharing it. And yeah, so they basically were trying to suppress it. Now, the whole entire situation behind it was, oh my god, they're trying to suppress it's because they're Hunter Biden voters or whatever. And they basically all cried social, or their freedom of speech is being they're being silenced, essentially, is what the entire idea was. Okay, so there's 2 different problems here with the freedom of speech argument. First one, the freedom of speech argument only goes towards you and the government. The freedom of speech is protections that the government cannot silence you. It does not protect you from somebody else trying to silence you. In fact, somebody else, a private company, trying to silence you is their exercising of their freedom of speech. Second of all, if you go to any fucking website and you sign up for an account, you sign a terms of service. In that terms of service is basically them being able to explain to you everything that you agree to, that they can do to you. In most cases, one of those is the ability to delete your posts, to limit your posts, to basically be able to control what you do on their platform. So those are two things with the freedom of speech argument. The second argument that a lot of people have is there's a difference between publisher and platform. A publisher in most people's heads is like New York Times news articles, news organizations, whereas a platform is what they see Twitter and Facebook as. And the where that comes from, where they say this company is acting like both, Twitter is acting like a platform and a publisher, and they want both, and whatever, comes from the Communications Decency Act of 1996. And this is the EFF article regarding it, but in 1996 there was a law that had a lot of problems that was passed called the Communication Decency Act of 1996. And in that act was Section 230. Now, Section 230. What is the Section 230? Well, it's the reason why you don't see ISIS beheadings on YouTube. It's the reason why you see social media platforms actually being able to moderate their platform and do what they've been doing. It has nothing to do with platform or publisher. It has everything to do with the protections that they have in A, liability, legal liability, and B, the actual ability to actually have the ability to moderate their platform. So, the problem was in Stratton Oakmont. If you guys have seen Wolf of Wall Street, I'm trying to see what that was. I had that loaded up too. Stratton Oakmont lawsuit. What was the? It was a lawsuit versus Prodigy Services. So in 1995, there was a lawsuit that went to New York Supreme Court that basically said that this company, Prodigy Services, somebody had posted a review of Stratton Oakmont saying that they got ripped off. Stratton Oakmont sued the platform, not the person, in the sense of it is defamation of character. I'm not sure who it was voted for. Court ruling argued that the court's general argument for holding Prodigy liable in the face. It was who won in this case? I'm trying to remember. The case conflicted. CompuServe. Yeah, somebody won in this. I don't really know who won, but it brought up a very, very big problem. That if I run a website, who won? Just gonna search that. Who won this? Majority. Yeah, I don't know who won this one. I'm gonna take a wild guess and say Stratton Oakmont won. Settled. Oh, it got settled. So nobody won. It got settled out of court. Long story short, it brought up a very, very big problem in the fact of if I run a website and I allow anybody to comment and they say something that is defamatory, threatening, anything, I would be held liable for what other people post on my website. That type of a situation was the reason why Twitter and Facebook wouldn't be existing without this law. Or if it was, you wouldn't be able to actually post. You wouldn't have a platform. You would just be able, I don't know what Facebook would be without people being able to post on it, or Twitter. It basically protects the company from liability when it comes to what their users do on the platform. So respected publications like on both sides, Fox, CNN, New York Times, Prison Planet in some people's minds, pretty much everywhere, they wouldn't be able to innovate, and they wouldn't be able to continue business if this law wasn't enacted. So no matter the allegations that were going on towards the company, they would have this protection. So that's kind of where that goes. Now, the biggest problem when it comes to the whole platform versus publisher situation is there is actually absolutely no legal definition for what a platform is and what a publisher is. That is bullshit that lawmakers have been saying that there is. There isn't. So what a lot of people have been saying is, some people have been in the mindset of repeal Section 230. Other people have been in the mindset of appeal Section 230 in the fact of adding the legal definition between platform and publisher, and possibly a third, where it would be, I guess, a hybrid is what I would call it, where they have the ability, they have the protections for being a platform and a publisher, and what is okay and what isn't. It also, in nowhere in the law, because I don't think they ever expected this law to be such a heated topic and debate, because I don't think they expected in the 90s that a website would be able to handle more than 100 people on it, that because there is those designations that a platform or that a company has to kind of stick to the rules of one and not just jump around whichever law works best. They really can't, because there's no actual distinction there. But essentially, appealing Section 230, if you're of that mindset, I'm not saying this in a sense of, this is what's going to happen, or this is why you should feel bad or for it, would basically stifle innovation real fast. Repealing Section 230 would close down Twitter, Facebook, MySpace, whatever. It would close them all down until there is some sort of legal standing regarding the moderation platform. Because Twitter, for instance, there's hacked materials all over Twitter. There's an entire, for every single niche, if it's like really bad or really good, there's an entire community of it on Twitter or Facebook. There's people that even talk about that there's white supremacists on Facebook and on Twitter. That there's, God, I'm gonna hate myself for having to say this word, maps on Twitter, for instance, and until actually about 2 weeks ago was a protected class on Twitter. If you don't know what a map is, just don't look it up. It's child predators. That's basically what they call themselves. It's basically, for those types of situations, there needs to be some sort of a standing law that says that, hey, we can, once we know about these types of people on our platform, and it obviously is going to look bad for us and for just the amount of victims that could possibly come from these types of people, that we can do something about that right away and have legal standing and are actually legally right. And until that, if Section 230 is repealed, until that is done, nothing on the internet is going to happen. You won't be able to have anything like that. So, yeah, that's basically Section 230 in a nutshell. I don't know. There's a lot of different views of it. Repeal it with a new law. I can give you the positives of that. Laws from the 90s don't really work 30 years later. See copyright law.
Most part, yeah.
Yeah, copyright law is absolute bullshit. There's a lot of different laws that, from the 80s and the 90s, that would have made sense if VHS was still a thing, and now it's not. It doesn't really make sense. There's this law, for instance, Section 230. So changing and updating laws like that would make a lot more sense, because modern issues require modern answers and solutions. While basically amending Section 230 to kind of adding the wording of platform and publisher, adding the wording of hybrid. There would have to be a hybrid in that type of a situation, would also be a positive view of it. And then there's also the view of do absolutely nothing about it and just have people continue to spout this fucking bullshit of publisher platform. It seems like this argument of just keep it where it's at and just let people spout that bullshit is basically just more of being dramatic about things going on. But this argument has happened literally once a month. You have the New York Times or the New York Post. You have Donald Trump's Twitter, their Facebook. You have basically very, very political people, being silenced because they're expecting to be treated like a special class than everybody else. If I say something bullshit on YouTube right now, like if I say a complete and utter lie, for instance, we would get suppressed. We would get a tag underneath our video.
Misinformation.
Yeah. And for people who are wondering why is this a big deal, your cannabis thing, it's because it's the reason why, like, this YouTube channel, for instance, doesn't really get pushed in YouTube algorithm, because it's something that YouTube doesn't agree with, or, well, the content isn't verifiable. The reason why they, like, if they're for or against it, and they can't really, like, put trust in people in that regard, so they kind of suppress it until they can figure something out to do with it. So sometimes we get pushed, other times we don't. That's the reason why that it's a big deal, because Section 230 is literally all they have to say when it comes to why. If I say, why are you suppressing me? Why did it take 2 weeks ago? Why did it take 3 days to process a video to 4K when it was already pre-processed when I uploaded it? That would just be the reason. Because in the content was maybe something that they needed to verify or needed to figure out if it was fake news or not, and it actually needed like a human interaction type of thing for it to be verified. That's all they have to say is Section 230. We're protected against liability. You can't really sue us for this. We can do whatever the fuck we want. Now that's a problem with certain platforms. YouTube, for instance. Because they don't really say much. Twitch does the same thing. You say, I am having this problem. They will look in their website. They will find a canned response for that one thing. They'll copy and paste that and send that to you in an email. And in most cases, like for us, for instance, the only people that I can talk to at YouTube would be their Twitter department. I can't email support. You need to have 1,000 subscribers to email support.
Yeah, I'm having like an Obama moment here, like.
Yeah. Yeah, like, there is no support. If you get 10,000, you get your own human. Literally, you get your own human contact that works on your channel. But yeah, that's basically the argument of Section 230 and why it's so important. When it comes to what can I do type of thing, not much. The law is a federal law. It supersedes, there's even wording in the actual act. It supersedes the actual states from being able to amend it. And it would basically be based on where the state is or where the company is located out of. So California would essentially have to, like, there's no way that California can change Section 230 in a state law. It has to be federal. you could go to your representative in House of Reps, so like in North Dakota, if you think that that's ever going to do anything, you could talk to your House of Representatives representative or Senate. You can get something like that going, but it's probably gonna fall on very deaf ears, because again, most of the people who spout the platform versus publisher thing is just being dramatic. So yeah, there's really no fix for that. But I don't know, I think it's interesting that people can see that type of thing. There's a lot of laws from the 90s. That's the nicest way I can say that. But yeah, that's my rant on that. What do you think?
You know, it's one of those things where, like, in an internet connected world, why are these things not just clearly established? You know? Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand why, if I hop on the internet right now and I decide that I'm going to create a platform, why, to this day, as you said, from the 90s, is it still convoluted law that we're working with to figure out what's right or wrong?
Yeah. I mean, like with Section 230, for instance, it's good that there is that law in the books, but why? So a lot of the aspects of the Communication Decency Act was found unconstitutional. Section 230 is, I think, one of the few that actually survived. Oh. They literally have an entire case called EFF ACLU versus DOJ. Okay, that's basically all the EFF does. But let's see, Communication Decency Act. There's a lot of stuff in there of like shock sites would have gotten hit. Which,
yeah, God.
I mean,
those goddamn things.
There's a bunch of them that actually, yeah, there was, for some reason, there's, okay, here's the things that Congress enacted to gain access. Here's what the whole Communication Decency Act did. It prohibited transmitting obscenity to minors. Obscenity was probably very, very vague. Obscene or indecent messages to a recipient under the age of 18. It also outlawed the knowing display of patently offensive materials in a manner available to those under 18. So literally every single person under the age of 18 would have basically ruined the entire website. Like, porn wouldn't exist. Because it's materials in a manner available to those under 18, like that under 18 button that nobody ever... No 17-year-old or 16-year-old ever went on a website and said, "Oh, I'm not 18, I gotta go." Yep. It did include the Miller test as a guide for the act, which basically makes a specific reference to materials patently offensive, according to contemporary community standards. So those never change, right? So cancel culture is not way worse than it was, like, in the 90s. Let's see. Both lawsuits targeted the provisions criminalizing indecent or patently offensive. It would be a criminal issue. You would get criminally charged. And on top of that, if 230 wasn't a thing, you would get criminally get criminally charged for what other people post on your website. So that's a problem. One of the biggest things of the internet is the ability to interact with other people and be able to talk to people, A, that you normally wouldn't, or B, that, like, is in another state. Like, I talk to all my friends in California, for instance, or I talk to, I don't even know where everybody else is, but yeah, like you in Jamestown, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
The ability to be able to do that, that's the internet.
There you go, fucking doxing me, telling people where I live.
Oh, I legitimately actually thought, like, oh god, did I do that?
No, you're cool, dude. Says the guy with his fucking address all over the state.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Mine Mine's out there, but not the one that I actually live at.
That makes you the smart one.
I didn't want that out there, but I ended up getting in an argument on Twitter, and that's what ended up happening.
Yeah.
Over petty internet beef.
Douchebag McGee decided that it's totally appropriate to do something that he'd never want done to himself.
Yep. But yeah, I don't know. Other than that, like, I feel like this argument will be brought up a lot over and over again. Publisher, platform, calling Twitter and Facebook, whatever. And honestly, at the end of the day, because there's no legal distinction, it doesn't really matter. And that's the problem. That, like, hey, if you were talking about actually doing an action and, you know, trying to fix this Section 230 issue, which I'm sure is not at the top of your list, then try to pass a bill to amend it to actually adding a legal distinction between the two. I mean, okay, let me think. For platform versus publisher. Publisher would be where more than or less than X amount of people could post. Anything over, platform. And then on top of that, not only do you have to do that, you also have to amend what each has the right to do and not do. So essentially, you're going to rewrite Section 230, which might be a good idea. But if whoever wants to do that, if anybody ends up doing that, which I know I'm not talking to anybody that would be able to do that, can you also take care of the DMCA?
Yeah, that's a shit show and a half on its own.
Like, how about we don't take all the money from Disney and make whatever law that they want? How about we don't do that? Or Nintendo. That's what
I remember
happened.
you saying something about Nintendo. Was that yesterday?
Nintendo quite literally, I don't know, but quite literally, if you stream, about 4 or 5 years ago, and still to this day, actually, if you stream any gameplay of Nintendo, like any kind of Nintendo game, they would strike you.
I do remember that, actually.
Yeah, when gameplay in just general, I mean, if you're streaming on the internet and you're not commentating or doing anything like that, if you're streaming gaming on the internet, then you're just playing video games by yourself. But if you decide to throw that up on the internet and you don't provide commentary, yeah, you deserve a copyright claim, but you're commentating over it. You have legal authority under fair use. That could be a little bit of an issue, like how easy fair use can be to claim. There's also even a entire statute that ends up being brought up is never actually valid of archiving. So you are streaming or you are re-uploading this content to archive the content because it was deleted previously. Mm-hmm. So like when somebody deletes a video on YouTube and you re-upload it, it's technically archiving. Problem with that is you're not a library, so you don't have the right to do that. That is only given to libraries. But a lot of people believe that that's an actual thing. Yeah. There's also the 4 pillars test that most people don't seem to understand when it comes to DMCA law. Like, if you are going to be claiming something for fair use, you might as well make sure that it actually passes those fair use laws. But yeah, there's a lot of people who think they know about certain laws. I mean, I'm not a professional Section 230 person. I can almost guarantee you any kind of question of fair use, I could probably answer it, but Section 230 not so much. But that's basically the nuts and bolts that you would need to know about Section 230. But yeah, and it's weird. The Stratton Oakmont thing I actually learned today. Wolf of Wall Street. That actually is a thing that, like, the lawsuit in the video in the movie actually existed. I haven't
seen that movie.
It's a good movie. It's really funny too.
DiCaprio one.
Yeah, it's really good. Totally worth trying or watching. Definitely. yeah, I don't know. You got anything else?
No. I'm just enjoying the rant.
Yeah, like, I don't know, like, a lot of people, I try to relate it to cannabis as much as possible, but, like, this one does relate to cannabis directly. Like, that's the reason why suppression on algorithms works just in general, and the reason why they're built in. That's the protection that they get. It's also that freedom of speech bullshit that I absolutely, when I hear somebody use I got banned off Facebook, they took away my freedom of speech. That's not how that works. Almost 99.9% of the time, that is literally all I say, and I end that conversation, because that's not how that works. If it is freedom of speech, here we go. If Donald Trump, which he's actually been sued for doing this, if Donald Trump blocks you on Twitter, that is against your right to freedom of speech. If there's a couple people in North Dakota, a couple legislators in North Dakota that will block you on Facebook, that's against your freedom of speech. They're suppressing your ability to speak to the government, because they are a government. Like, if it's their public Facebook or their public Twitter, like if it's just their personal. Yeah, like if they do official like posts for their position and they block you, it is against your freedom of speech. But that argument can also be made that they are also using their freedom of speech as a private citizen, but then you also have to then take into the argument then is how much of the information on that Facebook page or whatever is their public profile versus their private. And that's the reason why you see private Facebooks without their public view. But yeah, like there's that.
As I said, it's the convolutedness. That's what gets me.
Yeah.
It's like, I just understand why this can't be clear cut by now.
I mean, the thing is that the internet's always changing too. Like, I can understand that. Like, okay, if this was 2000 or 2010, let's go even as far as 2016 election, and we don't have that figured out, that's fine. But from 2016 to 2020, the fact that none of this type of stuff happened because Donald Trump's Twitter essentially really tested the waters with this law particularly. So that type of a situation, like Obama never tweet stormed at 3 o'clock in the morning at Kim Jong-un or anything like that.
How fucking funny would that be? Looking back on it 4 years down the road.
Oh my god, I follow him on Twitter just because I absolutely love to see the comments. Honestly, if you ever get bored, one of these days, go on the comments of, like, prominent public figures. It's hilarious. I mean, it's cutthroat. But Donald Trump's, for instance, is just like people just being like, "Oh, you mean this?" and then just kind of throwing it back in their face or being super sarcastic. There's one that got me actually a while back ago, where Trump tweeted something about suburban. They're gonna like burn your house down or something. And I forgot what the tweet was, but basically he was talking about how like if Democrats get voted into presidency, that he's the only thing that's keeping this suburban housing from, you know, looking gentrified and bullshit or something like that. And somebody posted in there like as a verified account or something like that, like, good, keep the pores out. I legitimately was like, the fuck? And then apparently it was a parody account. But like, I legitimately was like, the fuck kind of take is that?
Oh shit, man.
I don't know, it was hilarious, but at the same time, like, I was like, I'm so stupid for actually believing that.
Right into the trap. Those goddamn Democrats.
There's actually 2 of them. I should find them. Let me. So it was in a Philip DeFranco video. By the way, if you ever like want to follow news like super heavily, Philip DeFranco is awesome.
Like my favorite shit about the internet, especially the really Trumpy people, is like no matter what is happening, it always comes back to those fucking Democrats. I mean, like literally anything. Follow your local news Facebook page, and it is just a gold mine. It's some of the most ignorant shit you've ever heard.
Oh, there's this clip. This clip is funny. I'm just gonna apparently just regurgitate Philly D's thing. Oh boy. You go over here. I was not ready for this.
I see that. I'm looking very confusedly.
So this is the Department of Health Director, I think, of Idaho, I want to say.
Yes, you are.
Where is that? Yeah, anyway, so this was the... This is
Hello, I'm Dr. Claire Pochet. I'm a general pediatrician and also a senior health advisor here at the Oregon Health Authority. And we thought we'd start by giving you a quick update on where we are as a state with COVID-19.
You want to send me that link?
Well, this is the Philly D version, but yeah, I found the actual like source footage for this, but it gets even more fucked up. Here, just watch this last part.
Today, there have been 38,160 cases of COVID-19 in Oregon, with 390 new cases being reported today.
I can't hear it. I'm just watching a clown face talk.
Okay, so basically she's like, it was Idaho, I think, if I remember what I just heard, but it was Idaho, and she was like, I am the Department of Health Director of Idaho or whatever. I'm here to give you a status update regarding COVID. And she's like, so far we've had X amount of people with COVID today, and we've had 300 something people die of COVID, and she's just wearing this. Like, please. Okay. Maybe these are the accounts, I think.
Comedians and not actual Trump supporters, otherwise...
Yeah.
On the note of influenza, actually, I just want to talk about something else for a second. If you see this woman or this man on Twitter or Facebook or wherever, please know that these are comedians and...
Okay, there are comedians on Twitter. I just want to find them. I remember finding one of them. Anyway, it's... Yeah, there's comedians just like talking shit about Twitter, or on Trump on Twitter, and it's hilarious. Honestly, like, just literally going into his Twitter is funny as fuck.
Dude, my favorite shit in the world was somebody made a plugin for Chrome that when you open Trump's feed specifically, it all looks like it was written in crayon by a fucking 3-year-old.
Well, what I want to do is every single picture he ever posts is, I want the one where he's like sitting in front of like the plate or whatever with like a fork and knife, looking like super fucking creepy. Okay, let's see, let's find a funny one. Just here's his Twitter.
You can show your...
Yeah, this is his Twiter.
I just sent you something on Skype.
Oh, the plugin?
Yeah, dude.
Okay, well, I don't have Chrome on here. Well, I do, but
I mean,
it would take too long to do it, because I'd have to sign in my Twitter. I know, he's a public. Okay. See what it looks like.
I'm doing
I'm gonna close it off with this. I need to open this in Chrome. Okay, Chrome goes over here, apparently.
Fuck, dude. I switched up password.
Oh, it looks like that. There's a picture of it.
I want to see if it works, though.
Oh, I'm sure it does. Add extension.
Trump.
Okay. Turned on extension. Okay. And here's his Twitter. Okay. Yep, it does. It only does it until you scroll over it. And I have dark mode on, I'm sorry. But yeah.
That is the greatest shit ever. Like the thank you North Carolina, it looks like a fucking thank you note your parents made you write.
Yeah, except for when you like scroll over it. Oh wait, it does work.
Yeah, I was gonna say mine's doing fine.
The link though, like this link switched.
When you get down to 4 hours ago, Joe Biden is the candidate of rioters, looters, blah blah blah, and then in a different color, MAGA.
And his like Twitter is just, there's a lot of people for them. But then there's a lot of people for us. He has delivered for America for sure, and it's just like all of his like yeah. I don't know. It's hilarious. I guess there's some people who take it a little bit too seriously. Like I get that you don't like him, but like this is not okay. Like he's not Hitler. Okay? Hitler was way worse. Just putting that out there.
Oh, I have a whole ass photo album of shit just like that, and it's if you can't
it's
figure
funny,
out,
but
like if you can't figure out that it's haha and not like he's fucking Hitler.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like some people will actually like believe that. There was a botnet a while back ago of like Iranian botnet of some sort where there was a bunch of Twitter accounts that would just post underneath his Twitters or underneath his tweets of like dead bodies and stuff like that, and it would be like Trump did this and like just really gruesome, obscene shit that like there was a whole entire like army of this type of stuff going on, and it really kind of fucked everything up. That's the thing too, is like that type of stuff kind of, while like I don't like, this isn't my only form of entertainment of looking at Donald Trump's Twitter, but like most people who follow him, it's just more of just like, I want to see how many people ratioed him today, like because he gets ratioed a lot. But
what's that mean?
It's where you get more likes and retweets than the original poster.
Gotcha.
So like he might have like 56,000 retweets or whatever, and then somebody makes a really viral one and it gets like 70. That's called ratioed. But yeah, it's interesting. Anyway, that's all we have. That's all we have. We made it to the hour and a half, so I'm glad that we treaded water for that.
Yeah, and no, it's better than the fucking 2.5 hours.
Right? And Tuesday, there will be more. I will probably be first on, and then you'll be coming on. Yeah, I'm going to try to figure out if we can get more people on. I think it'll just be more like a good conversation, I think.
Yeah.
Kind of hope.
And, hey, it's election day, dude. It happens once every 4 years. So I will definitely stop in that evening.
Yeah, and I should probably go get a 12-pack.
We should do that, honestly. Like, whichever way it fucking goes, like, we should probably have a few drinks for that one. I don't even drink anymore, and that sounds like a splendid idea.
But yeah, that's all we have. If you like this video, make sure to share it out. Check us out on YouTube, which is where you're watching this. Canna-Talk ND on Facebook. It's Canna-Talk ND with Wilson on Facebook. And if you like this show, you want to, listen to more. That's what I meant to say. Check out Canna-Talk ND with Wilson on 95.9 Radio Free Fargo every Thursday from 4 to 5 p.m. If you're not in the Fargo-Moorhead area, RadioFreeFargo.org. If you're watching it, or if you're listening to it live from 4 to 5 p.m. CST, obviously. Or it'll be on the YouTube channel the next day, and podcasting platforms about an hour to 2 hours after. And It'll be shorter because like his is an hour long, but he also has music in there, and copyright can't do that. So yeah, my name is Phil.
I'm Anthony.
And this has been Canna-Heads. We will see you guys Actually, we'll see you guys on Tuesday. November 3rd at 5 p.m. When I'm scheduling it, that might change a little bit, just depending on
And
when
we get to watch
states
the
do
world
it.
burn together.
Right? And also, I should have said this right at the top. Vote. If you need help finding a place to vote, vote411.org is one of the places. Ballotpedia is another place. I recommend Vote 411 for finding a polling place, finding any kind of public stuff any candidates have said, and Ballotpedia for more like Wikipedia style for measures. That's kind of what I follow with.
And if you struggle after that, get a hold of either one of us. We'll help you.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Here, let's... Yeah, I think we've covered all of the 2 measures that are on the ballot.
Yeah.
Candidate-wise, it's kind of up to where you are.
Mm-hmm.
There's a governorship going up. That's got actually a pretty... It might be an actual tight race, surprisingly. I'm
gonna bank Bergen's gonna pull it.
Yeah, I'm 99.9% sure that he's gonna win, but good fight at least. It was actually kind of interesting to watch. Yeah, so just to like shore it up, measure 1 will make it so that school districts why don't I just spit out what it says on their website, on the Secretary of State's website, before I get everything wrong. But ballot measures, November 3rd election. Here we go. Measure 1 would increase the number of board members from 8 to 15 for the higher education. So this is college board. From 8 to 15, prohibit state legislators, elected state officials, employees, and individuals employed full-time by the institution under the board's control from serving on the board. That seems logically sound. Increase the term of appointment of board members from 4 to 6 years, with the option for reappointment to a non-consecutive second term, and replace the Chief Justice of Supreme Court on the board nominating committee with the Secretary of State. And the proposed amendments of this would require the board to meet at least annually with the head of each institution under its control. So this would be colleges. So there's that. Fiscal impact of only $147,000 biennium. And then measure 2. I'm pretty sure you guys have heard exactly what measure 2 is. Essentially, we're gonna pull out the paint. Alright. Can I make this bigger, please? Yeah, there. Alright. So, you got citizen-led initiative. I'm just gonna make boxes and triangles. Citizen-led initiative, right? This is only constitutional. Okay? Currently. This is what it looks like currently. You got your ballot. You get your 16... how many? 26,000. That's what it is. 26,000 signatures. You get your signatures. You bring it to the Secretary of State. Well, first you bring your constitutional amendment to the Secretary of State for them to approve it. And then it goes, you get your signatures. Okay? And then it goes straight to ballot. Alright. That's what that works. Okay. Alright.
Okay, Phil. Go to your chat. Click the thing.
Did you make a thing?
I said click the thing.
You did make the thing. Okay.
I didn't make it, I just Googled it.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. So, this is what it is currently. You got your citizen-led initiative. It goes on the ballot. You get your signatures, it goes on the ballot. Gets rejected. Okay. It's done. It's gone. Over. Okay. It gets approved. It becomes law. Okay.
Okay.
This is what it'll look like if Measure 2 passes. You have your measure. It gets approved by voters. You get the votes. It goes to the legislature, who then can reject it. And if they reject it, then it goes back to the voters, who then will approve it again. And then it becomes law. Whereas if it goes to legislator and it gets approved, it becomes law. Essentially, this is the problem right here. This part doesn't need to exist.
Because that's not how voting works.
And when it comes to the argument of out of state is going to be able to, this is to stop out of state people from taking on our elections. 2020's Measure 3, for instance, this would not have stopped it. It would have been, say it actually did get approved, and went to the legislator, it got rejected. All they have to do is restart up their bullshit. Like, this does not stop that. It just brings it back up to the next election, which, by the way, is the next general, not primary election. So not only does it do that, it also limits the amount of time that the constitutional amendment can actually be on a ballot. That's also another one that not a lot of people realize. So yeah, this doesn't stop out-of-state money or out-of-state people or whatever from taking over North Dakota or whatever. It doesn't stop that. And the people who are for this type of thing, or the legislators that are for this type of thing, that seem to want to relay it to, I think it was Marcy's law, like the victim protection law.
Mm-hmm.
That's fucking disgusting that people do that. So that's all I gotta say about that one. So, Measure 1, that's up to you type of thing. Measure 2, I will very proudly say, please vote no on Measure 2. Measure 2 would, while I'm out of it, and Anthony's out of it, and Greg is out of it type of thing, would absolutely destroy ND Freedom of Cannabis Act from continuing. So that would literally what this would cause is no constitutional amendments ever again, because it's not going, the amount of money that this type of thing would cost for the people who want to do this type of thing would be absolutely astronomical.
Mm-hmm.
And the chances of success would be absolutely astronomical, because they voted yes on something 4 years ago. You have 4 years for them to forget your name, for it to be brought up in front of them, and most of them would be quite annoyed about it and be like, why is this a thing again? I thought this passed. And a lot of people would be confused and just say, okay, this must be some sort of fraudulent bullshit. And it would also allow the opposition of any type of measure to basically say, well, even the legislator disagreed with it, so, which is the whole reason why most of these measures exist, is because the legislator wouldn't either do it or wouldn't be for it. So, yeah. And it's not a you versus them.
It's literally us fighting them, not being willing.
And it's not a us versus them thing either. Them being people who would take money from contributors, like from people who would be against, for instance, like cannabis. People who would take against, or who take money from against, so they kind of have to take that stance, even if they actually wholeheartedly believe they also want to get reelected. Mm-hmm. So they kind of trade off that, and that's kind of what politics is trading off your running for office, is trading off your ideal beliefs for
you sell your fucking soul.
Essentially. So yeah, no on Measure 2. Measure 1,
Big no.
no? I don't know.
No, I was talking about measure 2 still. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Slow
Measure
drop
2,
there.
definitely no. Measure 1, it's kind of what your beliefs are type of thing. So, yeah. And then as far as everything else, we're not going to tell you how to vote. So, do your own research. That's party politics. So,
Yep, you do you, boo.
yeah. Other than that, we will see you guys Tuesday for election night, whenever it happens. And if you don't make it to election night, we will see you guys on Sunday, 7 p.m. 7:30 p.m.
And if you don't make it past election night because of the Civil War, probably won't see us again.
No, for me it would just be alcohol poisoning.
Yeah, right.
Right,
kids.
I didn't plan this again, so let me okay. Bye. Not studio mode. There we go. Bye-bye.
Bye.